over 90% of people support background checks. And since there's been talk about overturning Roe versus Wade, amazingly, public opinion has shifted in all areas of abortion, not just in terms of rape and incest, which obviously was low, but even women having an abortion because they want to, for whatever reason. And so I guess my question to you is, the GOP is continuously pursuing policies which the majority of the country disagree with. In fact, a lot of the economic policies that Trump put through, most Republicans didn't want. 61% of them didn't want the tax cut. So, and that explains why many people would say that the Republican Party is trying to change the rules and limit voting, because they're trying to get to a point where it's minority rule. So I guess my question for you is it wise to keep pursuing policies that the majority of this country does not agree with?
I think the laboratories of democracy at the state level, that's where we have a lot of these laws and policies already in place. For example, in California and Illinois, some of the strictest gun control laws in the country have some of the most violent gun-ridden cities in the country. So I don't think.
But you know why that is,
in fact,
right?
The Wall Street Journal had a great analysis about the illegal arms. That the vast majority of crimes are committed by illegal firearms, and
but
only
you know why that is,
right? Only the illegal because Democrats,
right? Because they live, because they're next to states with lax gun laws. Gun laws are one of the few laws where the states don't make as much of a difference, because you can, this is the argument I always hear in Chicago. Well, Chicago is some of the toughest gun laws in the country, and they have all these shootings. Yeah, because they're next to states with lax gun laws. So it's very easy to get guns in.
It's because
we're one of the few areas where you do need reasonable national laws. So I know you had mentioned that you support red flag laws, but don't you support expanded background checks?
I mean, we already do have pretty extensive background checks.
No.
And the fact is that only 0.8%.
Yes. So yes or no? Do you support
crime
expanded background checks? Can't you just give me a yes or no answer?
I'd have to see the specific of what's being proposed. So, but the thing is, Dave, the fact of the matter is, in California, for example, I know there's an election going on about people, whether there's a referendum, it doesn't matter how strong the law is nationally if it's not enforced. So Gascon and these other very lax DAs and prosecutors, they don't want to prosecute gun crimes, Dave. They don't want to, and they're trying to stop people from prosecuting against gun crimes. So there is zero sense in trying to pass new laws, I think, until we can actually enforce and not have these weak DAs who believe more in rehabilitation rather than protecting victims whose loved ones are being murdered, and they'd like the perpetrators to walk free. So I think it's so tone deaf to keep talking about something when the left wants to defund the police. They don't want to prosecute gun crimes.
The left does not want to defund the police. 10% of the left wants to defund the police.
They do.
Please, come on. Even Sean Hannity doesn't use that one anymore. I mean, Joe Biden, no mainstream Democrat. That's Cory Bush or Rashida Tlaib. No serious Democrat wants to defund the police. But I want to say one thing, because unlike you, I'm always fair on this. Yes, DAs like George Gascon, and by the way, Chesa Boudin in San Francisco, he may be recalled today. So that just shows you, even in liberal cities, I know, believe me, fingers crossed. And I've told you, I don't like recalls, because I think recalls should be used for crimes against the state. They're not for policy disagreements. So I would not have initiated this recall. But now that he's there, even though I don't vote in San Francisco, I'm certainly supporting it. And it's the same thing with the school board. So there are the 3 members who got bumped off the school board, mainly because they were focusing on renaming schools that were named after Dianne Feinstein instead of getting the kids back into school. So there is some accountability on the Democratic side. You're not seeing that, by the way, on the Republican side, where more and more extreme candidates keep getting nominated. And because of the Trump factor, someone like Pierre Navarro, who was such a straight shooter, he sold his soul, and look where he is now. But I do think that the expanded background checks and closing the gun show loophole and being able to buy online, anyone who buys a gun should go through a background check. And as you say, the red flag laws should be expanded. But someone like you won't even say that you support expanded background checks. And that's what's so frustrating, because 90% of the country does.
Well, again, the vast majority of gun crimes are committed by illegal firearms. And I think that if we want to stop the murder and crime and mayhem of innocent lives, school shootings are a matter of school safety and security. And the fact, and also in this case, the police didn't do their job. That was just a dereliction of duty. So the police obviously are not perfect, but in the case of school shootings, there's so much more we can and should do to protect schools, and then to crack down on, enforce the laws we already have on the books. I think that those will go much further than starting on issues that are going to divide, rather than trying to get some common sense shared reforms and actual results.
But see, this is the typical thing where it's a distraction. Whenever it comes to actually doing even incremental guns law improvements, you hear, oh, well, let's talk about mental illness. And then Republican governors cut the budget, as Greg Abbott did, by $200 million in Texas for mental illness. Oh, let's make schools safer while we cut the budget for schools. So these are distractions. Okay, yes, I'm not saying those things shouldn't happen, but background checks and closing certain loopholes, that's something that's not going to affect law-abiding citizens. 80 to 90% of the country, including 3/4 of NRA members, support it. But Republican senators won't do it because they're a bunch of cowards. And that is the fact. Anyway, another amazing debate, always respectful, always fun. I'm Dave Spencer. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on our next episode of Practically Political.
See you then.